Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be looking at something you all sent in quite a bit, actually. It's this article, The Modern Renaissance, Embracing Versatility in the Information and AI Era by Timo Lagerbielke. And it's something a lot of you are really interested in how this whole Renaissance idea, how it applies to us today. All this craziness with AI, the changing world, tons of new information all the time.
Yeah, and that's a really fascinating area right now. I mean, there's so much going on, and it really does feel kind of like a new renaissance, a blossoming of new ideas and new ways of thinking.
Yeah, definitely. And so to help us kind of unpack all this and figure out, what it all means for us today, we've got an expert in the house. So welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess maybe just to get us started, could you tell our listeners, a little bit about your background and how you got
Yeah.
interested in this whole, Renaissance idea and its application to the modern world?
Sure. Yeah. So I've spent most of my career kind of looking at the intersection of uh, technology, human behavior, and how organizations adapt to change.
Okay.
And I've always been fascinated by these historical periods, like the Renaissance, where you had this incredible explosion of creativity and innovation, and when I started reading about the modern Renaissance and how people are applying these principles from the past to the challenges we face today, it really resonated with me. And
Yeah.
so I've been doing a lot of research and writing about how we can learn from the past to navigate the future.
That's awesome.
And I think this article by Lagerbielke really captures the essence of what's going on right now.
Yeah, and speaking of the article, one of the things that really struck me was how it kicks off with this really powerful comparison.
Yeah.
It talks about how the changes we're seeing today are as big as the shift from farms to factories back in the Industrial Revolution.
Right. Yeah, that's a great analogy because you think about it, back then people had to learn completely new skills. They had to adapt to new ways of working. Their entire lives were disrupted. And we're kind of going through a similar thing now with technology and AI. It's changing everything.
Right. It's like the rules of the game are changing, and we're all trying to figure out how to play.
Exactly. And the pace of change is so much faster now.
Mhm.
Back then it took decades for those changes to really play out, but now we're seeing things change on an almost daily basis.
So what does this mean for our listeners?
Yeah.
Right. Like they're probably sitting there thinking, okay, this is interesting, but what does this have to do with me?
Yeah.
So imagine, you're listening to this, you've got your own job, your own goals, your own life. How is this constant change already impacting things?
Well, I think one of the biggest things to realize is that the skills and knowledge that got you to where you are today might not be the ones that take you forward.
Mm.
It's almost like knowledge now has an expiration date. What you learned in school or even 5 years ago might be obsolete today.
Yeah. I never really thought about it that way, but it's true, right? It's like we're all kind of on this treadmill of having to constantly learn and adapt.
Exactly, and that's where the whole Renaissance idea comes in.
Okay, so how does the Renaissance help us with that?
Well, if you think about the Renaissance, it wasn't just about art and literature.
Right.
It was about this mindset of curiosity, of exploration, of being open to new ideas and new ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And that's what we need today more than ever.
Mm.
We need to be lifelong learners. We need to be adaptable. We need to be able to connect the dots between different fields and come up with creative solutions.
Yeah, and the article actually talks about this idea of specialization versus versatility.
Right.
And it makes this point that, while being an expert is valuable, we also need this kind of broad Renaissance style thinking to really navigate this uncertain future.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not about being a jack of all trades and master of none.
Okay.
It's about having this, what they call T-shaped knowledge.
T-shaped.
What's that? So the vertical line of the T that represents your deep expertise in one area,
Okay.
your core skill set, but the horizontal line that represents your understanding across other fields.
So it's like you're really deep in one area, but you're also broad enough to connect with other areas.
Exactly. And that's what allows you to be adaptable. It allows you to see the bigger picture. It allows you to innovate and come up with new solutions.
That's really cool. I like that visual. So for our listeners out there, think about your own skills. Where are you deep? Where's that vertical line of your T? And then where could you maybe broaden your knowledge a little bit, add to that horizontal line to open up some new possibilities. Let's say you're a software engineer, but you've always had this secret love for, I don't know, history.
Right.
And could understanding historical trends actually help you anticipate user needs in a way that other engineers might miss?
Absolutely. And that's a brilliant example of how knowledge doesn't exist in isolation.
Yeah.
It's about connecting those seemingly disparate fields that can actually spark the most innovative solutions.
Yeah. And that actually leads perfectly into another key point from the article, this idea of adaptability.
Mm.
Lagerbielke writes that the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn is crucial.
Hmm.
It's like he's saying that what we know today might be outdated by next week.
Right. And that's why being comfortable with constant learning, embracing new information, and even letting go of outdated ideas
Hmm.
is so essential.
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that, right? Like it's hard to let go of what you know and embrace something new.
It is. It is. It's almost like a form of grieving in a way.
Ah,
You know, you have to mourn the loss of what you knew before you can fully embrace the new.
I've never thought of it that way, but it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's not just about surviving change, it's
Mm.
about using it to your advantage.
Okay. So how do we do that?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that change is inevitable. It's going to happen whether we like it or not.
Hmm.
So instead of resisting it, we need to embrace it. We need to be curious about it,
Right.
and we need to look for the opportunities that it presents.
I think our listener has probably experienced this firsthand, right? Think back to a time when you had to adapt to a major change. Maybe a new job, new technology, or even that global pandemic a while back.
Yeah,
What did you learn from that experience?
right. And how can those lessons help you be even more adaptable in the future? These are important questions to consider.
They really are. Yeah, and thinking about those big changes, they really do shape us. It's like our brains are doing weight training, you
Yeah.
know, but for adaptability.
Oh, I like that. Adaptability weight training for the brain.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful ways to like build that adaptability muscle is through this idea of interdisciplinary thinking.
And the article really stresses that, right? It's about connecting those seemingly unrelated dots, between different fields, and then using that to solve problems in unexpected ways.
Exactly. It's like, thinking outside the box, but it's almost like you're thinking outside multiple boxes at the same time.
Hmm.
Multiple boxes. I like that.
Yeah. Let's take climate change as an example.
Okay.
It's not just an environmental science issue.
Right.
It's also about economics. It's about politics. It's about social justice. It's even about human behavior.
Yeah, it's like the world is this giant jigsaw puzzle, and we need pieces from all these different boxes to actually complete the picture.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really exciting. So how could you connect your area of expertise with something seemingly unrelated? Let's say you're a musician.
Okay.
Could understanding the principles of physics, like sound waves and frequencies, help you compose a more compelling piece of music?
Hmm.
Or maybe you're a teacher. Could studying the psychology of learning help you create more effective teaching strategies?
That's awesome. It's like taking what you already know and then using it as a lens to see a completely different field.
Exactly.
It makes learning so much more dynamic and engaging, right?
It does, it does. And speaking of engaging, the article also talks about how we can actually become these modern Renaissance people.
Okay, so how do we do that? Do we all need to like master calligraphy and learn to paint like Michelangelo?
No, 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 not at all. The good news is it's not as daunting as it sounds.
Okay, good.
The key takeaway here is to embrace lifelong learning.
Okay.
And luckily, in the age of information, we have more resources than ever before.
That's so true. Think about it, right? Online courses,
Mm.
podcasts, even just reading outside your usual topics. It all contributes to this,
Right.
building a more versatile and adaptable. It's like building a mental gym for your brain.
And just like any good workout, you don't have to start by running a marathon.
Right.
Pick one thing you're curious about, something totally outside your usual domain.
Okay.
Maybe it's astrophysics or philosophy, or even how to bake the perfect sourdough bread.
Ooh, I'm always up for learning about delicious bread.
Right.
But yeah, it's about starting small and taking that first step, right?
Exactly.
Read a book, watch a documentary, explore a new topic. You'll be surprised what you discover and how those seemingly random bits of knowledge can actually connect in really unexpected ways.
And who knows? Maybe one day those random bits of knowledge will lead to a whole new career path or a business idea or a creative project that you never even imagined possible.
That's inspiring.
It is. The modern Renaissance is all about embracing the unknown and seeing where that journey takes you.
I love that.
Yeah.
But the article doesn't just focus on individual growth, does it? There's a whole section about what it means to be a Renaissance leader in today's world, and that feels like a really crucial piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about individual skills, it's about how those skills actually translate into leadership and impact.
Okay.
Renaissance leaders are those who can see the big picture. They can connect the dots between different fields, and they can use their knowledge to solve real-world
It's
problems.
like you're the ultimate dot connectors.
They-
But it's more than just problem solving, right? It's about having a vision for a better future and inspiring others to work towards that vision.
Right.
Think about like Leonardo da Vinci
Here.
or Michelangelo. They weren't just skilled artists or inventors. They were visionaries.
Right.
They pushed the boundaries of human knowledge and creativity.
Absolutely. And they weren't afraid to challenge the status quo, you know?
Yeah.
Question the way things were done. It takes courage to do that,
Mm.
especially when it's so easy to just follow the crowd.
Right. So how do we cultivate that kind of leadership in ourselves and others?
Mm.
What steps can we take to become more Renaissance-minded, in our
Yeah.
approach to work, relationships, even our communities?
It really starts with embracing those core values of the Renaissance,
Mhm.
curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, and that commitment to lifelong learning. It's like we need to encourage those values everywhere in our schools, workplaces, even just in everyday conversations.
So it's about fostering this culture of learning and exploration, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Making it okay to ask questions and
Yes.
experiment and even make mistakes along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about shifting from a know-it-all mentality to a learn-it-all mentality.
Ooh, I like that. Learn it all. That should be on a t-shirt.
It really does. It really captures the essence of what we're talking about here.
Right.
Because the modern Renaissance, it isn't just about individual achievement. It's about collective progress.
Okay.
It's about using our knowledge and our skills and our creativity to make the world a better place.
That's awesome. And that brings us back to you, dear listener. As we wrap up this deep dive into the modern Renaissance, what's the one thing you'll take away from this? What action will you take? What new perspective will you embrace?
Well, I think the future really belongs to those who can adapt and think broadly and connect those dots between different fields. The challenges we face today, they're complex, but they're not insurmountable.
Right.
By embracing the principles of the Renaissance, the curiosity, the versatility, the commitment to lifelong learning, we can not just survive, but thrive in this ever-changing world.
It's pretty amazing to think that, these ideas from like centuries ago are still so relevant today.
They really are. And remember, the Renaissance wasn't just this period of great art and scientific discovery.
Right.
It was a period of challenging the status quo,
Mhm.
pushing boundaries, and reimagining what's possible.
So what will your contribution to the modern Renaissance be? What will you learn? What will you create? What change will you spark in the world?
That's the question I'll leave you with. Go out there and make your mark.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this journey and keep those minds curious. And until next time, happy exploring